Welcome back to History Exam Helper. Today we'll write a paragraph on political institutions in the Roman Republic. Here's the essay question, and here's the paragraph pyramid that we'll be using throughout. So first up, the topic sentence introduces the main idea of the paragraph and how it relates to the essay question. Specifically, the main idea of this paragraph is about Roman political institutions and how they are historically significant. In the essay introduction, we noted that historical significance is asking what reasons do we have to study history, or what do historians think is worthy of attention. So for example, historians want to know what Roman political systems were like on their own terms, what effect these institutions had on later societies, and what they reveal about change and continuity. Therefore, in the topic sentence, we can state plainly that Roman political institutions are historically significant because they help historians understand the past, the present, change, and continuity. But we don't need to be too specific because the next part will be more specific. Next, the explanation explains the topic sentence in more detail. Specifically, we want to know how Roman political institutions help us understand the past, the present, change, and continuity. For example, studying Roman political institutions helps us understand how political power operated in past societies and how this power was expressed in structures, status, and relationships. It also helps us understand the present because many societies model their governments based on similar political ideals. But they didn't do things identically, so this shows us how societies change or stay the same over time. Therefore, we can list these elements in the explanation sentence. But again, we don't need to be too specific because we'll use detailed evidence to support the explanation in the next section. The evidence section uses primary and secondary sources to support the explanation. Specifically, primary sources provide first-hand descriptions of political institutions, and secondary sources take a wider perspective because they have more access to more information, so they can see the impact on later societies and what has changed or stayed the same throughout time. We'll start the evidence section by using primary sources to support our statement that studying Roman political institutions helps us understand the past by looking at how political power was expressed through structures, status, and relationships. For example, Polybus tells us that political power was expressed through structures like the consuls, senate, and assemblies, and how these roles guided behaviour and set expectations for who was allowed to do what in society. Next, we can use secondary sources to provide some commentary on how Roman political institutions impacted later societies. Specifically, we can state that modern and medieval societies used parts of the Roman framework to structure their own political institutions. In this example, I haven't gone into too much depth about what specific societies used the Roman framework or how they did so, but if you're writing a bigger essay, feel free to add more specific information. I also referred to change by stating that they incorporated some of the elements of the framework, but not all of it. Then I referred to continuity by stating that the separation of powers did not prevent corruption, inequality, or political violence. So now we've used some evidence to support the explanation. And next we'll analyse the evidence. Here we can analyse historical evidence in two phases. First, we can look at the sources closely to see if they are accurate and credible. For example, Polybus is an important source documenting the particulars of Roman political institutions. However, historians have a healthy skepticism towards him because he was a Greek, trying to understand Rome by using standard Greek political theories, and trying to make Rome comprehensible to foreign audiences. As a result, his attempt at universalization obscured what was uniquely Roman in Roman political institutions. Therefore, we can state this tension in the analysis section and add further information from other sources like Cicero to support our argument and to highlight our historical skills. In the next part of the analysis, we can ask ourselves why. Specifically, why do Roman political institutions matter? For one, they show us how political power expresses itself in ancient times, where Roman society was organized in a distinct hierarchy based on social status. Secondly, they matter because they show historians how societies copy and adapt Roman political ideas to suit new circumstances, but that issues like corruption, inequality, and political violence continue to persist, which shows both change and continuity. Therefore, we can note these reasons in the analysis section to demonstrate that we have really looked at the sources to see if they are accurate and why they matter. Finally, we get to the prize of the paragraph pyramid, which is the link sentence, which links back to the main idea of the paragraph. Specifically, the main idea that we're trying to prove is that Roman political institutions are historically significant. And because we've used explanation, evidence, and analysis in the preceding sentences, we can state with some confidence in the link sentence that Roman political institutions are historically significant because they help us understand the past, the present, change, and continuity. And now we have a finished paragraph. And this paragraph again is not comprehensive. Advanced students should provide more evidence and more specific sources. Next time we'll write a paragraph on society and culture in the Roman Republic. See you then.